guilty on all charges.
This was a disgrace. This was a rigged trial.
Former President Donald Trump, now a convicted felon.
It's so unprecedented. It's never happened in the history of this country.
What comes next, and why one former prosecutor says this will not end with the former president behind bars. And that is where we begin tonight at 10. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Russ Spencer.
I'm Courtney Bryant. The New York jury found former President Trump guilty on all 34 felony counts of falsifying business records.
Fox 5 has team coverage of today's historic verdict. Christopher King is breaking down what this means for the Fulton County election interference case.
But first, Tom Haynes joins us here in studio with more about what happened both inside and outside of that New York courtroom today.
All right, Courtney and Russ, Donald Trump is the first former president ever to be convicted of felony crimes. A New York jury found him guilty of falsifying business records in a scheme to illegally influence the 2016 election through hush money payments to a porn actor who said that the two had sex. Jurors deliberated for 9.5 hours over 2 days before convicting him of all 34 counts he faced. Earlier today, they asked to have testimony from former Trump lawyer Michael Cohen and National Enquirer publisher David Pecker read back to them. Each of these felony counts carries a sentence of up to 4 years in prison. The sentence will likely be served concurrently. The former president sat stone-faced as the verdict was rendered, but had a lot to say to reporters as he walked out of the courtroom.
This was done by the Biden administration in order to wound or hurt an opponent, a political opponent. And I think it's just a disgrace. And we'll keep fighting. We'll fight till the end and we'll win, because our country's gone to hell. We don't have the same country anymore. We have a divided mess. We're a nation in decline, serious decline.
And while this defendant may be unlike any other in American history, we arrived at this trial and ultimately today at this verdict in the same manner as every other case that comes through the courtroom doors, by following the facts and the law and doing so without fear or favor.
Well, the former president's expected to quickly appeal the verdict, and it will be interesting to see how the former president campaigns on this newfound dynamic on the campaign trail. Sentencing is set for July the 11th. Russ and Courtney?
All right, Tom, thanks very much. Some questions to consider. What happens to the former president now that he's been convicted? What does the guilty verdict mean for his run for the White House? And will he spend any time behind bars? Fox
5's Christopher King talked with legal experts here in Atlanta. He joins us now from the live desk. And Christopher, this guilty verdict is raising a lot of important questions.
That's right, Courtney and Russ. They say we are in uncharted waters. Will the former president be sentenced to prison? Will he be able to run for office? Take a listen to these answers.
It's so unprecedented. It's never happened in the history of this country.
Former President Donald Trump, now convicted felon Donald Trump. He is the first former commander-in-chief ever found guilty of felony crimes.
This is what I call an OTO, one time only.
Darrell Cohen is a former Fulton County Assistant District Attorney. We asked him about the next phase of the case, sentencing. Will the former president be sentenced to prison?
I would say likely not.
The former president was convicted on charges of trying to illegally influence the 2016 election through a hush money payment to an adult film actor who said they had sex. The former president is a first-time non-violent offender.
I'm guessing several years probation, quite frankly. He was convicted on all 34 counts, so he can be fined on each count.
The Secret Service, as a former president, is sworn to protect him. And that would be quite difficult within a prison. I think house arrest is not beyond the realm of possibility.
John Acevedo is a visiting associate professor at Emory University School of Law. Is he legally allowed to run for the White House?
He is legally allowed to run. There is one precedent. Eugene Debs, in the early 20th century, ran from prison as a Socialist Party candidate. This is our first person who actually has a chance and is indeed leading in the polls.
Now, we also asked the experts what would happen to the potential sentence if the former president is reelected. And we asked the experts what impact could this guilty verdict have on the election interference case here in Georgia. Their answers at 11. At the live desk, Christopher King, Fox 5 News.
All right, we'll see you then, Christopher. Thanks. And as Christopher mentioned, the former president faces several other felony indictments, but this New York case may be the only one to reach a conclusion before the November election. In Florida, the former president charged with 20 counts of stemming from his alleged mishandling of sensitive government records after leaving the White House. The two other cases, the local charges here in Atlanta and federal charges in Washington, D.C., that he conspired to undo the 2020 election results. The Fulton County grand jury indicted Mr. Trump and 18 allies last August in a sprawling racketeering case stemming from an alleged scheme to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election in Georgia.
Governor Brian Kemp responded to Trump's guilty verdict on X. He posted, "Despite today's events, the ultimate verdict is up to the American people on November 5th, when they will have a clear choice on the future of our country." And Senator Raphael Warnock posted, "No one is above the law, including Donald Trump."
We have more reaction from politicians around the state on the Fox 5 News app. You can also stay up to date with this story on fox5atlanta.com.